What's up guys, welcome to another beginner woodworker video. For today's project I made Steve Ramseys Harmony bench. You know, as always being a beginner, I made quite a few mistakes along the way, but overall pretty happy with the results. So if you're keen to see how I got along, stick around for the rest of the video. Alright guys, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all of the legs for the bench. So I'm going to need 8 pieces the exact same size. So instead of measuring every single piece individually, I'm going to set up a stop block here on my miter saw, so it's going to be a lot faster and a lot more accurate. So that's at 40.6 centimeters, and then I'm going to draw a straight line going across. Maybe I'm using the wrong tool, but okay. Oops. All right, we got the line, and then we'll set up the block right here. This. All right, let's go. Alright, so I have all of my 8 leg pieces cut. So what I'm going to do next is cut the middle pieces. So how it's kind of going to look like is as follows. I'm going to have these 3 pieces here sandwiched together, and then use another piece which will be like a cross piece like that. And what I want is that all of these parts here are all nicely flush with each other. I'm going to do that for all of the legs, and then we'll move on to that. Here's what the 4 legs are going to look like. So now I'm going to want to glue and screw them all together. Is I want to sandwich these pieces on top of these pieces like that. So actually, where's my pencil? What I'm gonna do is map where these screws are so I don't drill into those screws. This screw here. So one of the problems with the boards that I bought is they're rounded on the edges, as you can see here. So in order to get them really straight and flush without having to do hours worth of sanding, I decided to use my table saw actually for one of the first times ever, and just rip a little bit off the ends, basically giving it more of a flush, straight finish on the sides, rather than, as I said, doing probably 2 to 3 hours worth of sanding. So as you can see here, yeah, after I ripped the sides, they're a lot more flush and straight, and yeah, worked out well. Now I'm going to cut 8 1x3s, about 90 centimeters lengthways for the length of the bench. So I'm going to set up a new stop block here, measure 90, about there. Set up a new stop block. to be kind of careful. I'm gonna slot this in here. Oh my God. Sure that's it. I'm gonna use my framing square, basically, to make sure that this thing is straight before I clamp it together. So. Well, that was quite the pain in the ass. Jesus. All right, well, it's time to do some more sandwiching. So let's get on with that. So here I'm just cutting 6 small blocks to put in between the 2 sides of the bench. And this is one of the reasons that the table saw incident earlier was a huge mistake and didn't quite work out, and basically messed up the whole bench. So you'll see more on that later. So I've got both of my sides pretty much done. So now I want to stick them both together. So what we're going to use for that is a bunch of glue and no screws, because we don't want the screws showing, because it's just going to look a lot nicer without that. All right, guys, so we're almost done here. So as you remember earlier with the table saw incident, I wanted to rip down the sides of the legs just to get them a little bit more flat and flush. And the problem that gave us was, if you look here on the top, now the leg pieces are not as thick as those block pieces that I put in between. So not really the end of the world, but I'm kind of disappointed because the whole look now is not completely uniform. And it just doesn't look as good as it would have if it was all nice and straight. So like I said, not the end of the world, just a little disappointing. What's all left to do now is just to sand all of this down and then finish it with some stain, and we'll be done. So as the sides and the ends of the table are really not straight at all and quite bumpy, I decided to use 60 grit sandpaper to sand the whole thing down, and this is how it turned out. So yeah, I think it looks a lot better, although it did take me about 45 minutes to get to this point. So yeah, happy with that.